Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jayamudhirayet. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Verse 38. So German translation is with Björn at the back. Deutsche Übersetzung ist hinten. Everybody else speaks English? Good. Please repeat. Iti Uttanapadaha Putro Dhruvaha Krishna Parayanaha Adbhut Trayanam Lokanam Chudam Manir Ivamalaha Iti Uttanapada Putro Dhruva Krishna Parayanaha Adbhutrayanam Lokanam Chudamanir Ivamalaham Ityutanapada Putro Dhruva Krishna Parayanaha Adbhutrayanam Lokanam Chudamani Rivamalaham Ityutanapada Putro Dhruva Krishna Parayanaha Adbhutrayanam Lokanam Chudamani Rivamalaham. Please chant. Ladies. Ityutanapada putro Deva Krishna Parayanaha Bhutrayanam Lokanam Chudamani Rivamalaha. Word by word. Iti, thus, Uttanapadaha, of Maharaja Uttanapada. Putraha, the son. Dhruvaha, Dhruva Maharaj. Krishna Parayanaha, fully Krishna conscious. Adbhut, became. Trayanam, of the three. Lokanam, worlds. Chudamanihi, the summit jewel. Eva, like. Amalaha, purified. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this way, the fully Krishna conscious Dhruva Maharaj, the exalted son of Maharaj Uttanapada, attained the summit of the three statuses of planetary systems. Purport. The exact Sanskrit terminology for Krishna consciousness is here mentioned. Krishna Parayanaha. Parayana means going forward. Anyone who is going forward to the goal of Krishna is called Krishna Parayana, or fully Krishna conscious. The example of Dhruva Maharaj indicates that every Krishna conscious person can expect to reach the topmost summits of all three planetary systems within the universe. A Krishna conscious person can occupy an exalted position beyond the imagination of any ambitious materialists. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Shatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Duyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Sankarshana Karanato Yashai Garbhodashai Chapayobdishai Sheshascha Kala Sanityanandakya Sharanam Mamastu Namo Mahavaranjaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvise Namaha Namaste Halagraha Namaste Mushalayuda Namaste Revatikanta Namaste Bhaktavatsala Namaste Dharanidhara Namaste Balaram Shishta Pralambari Namaste Stoi Himam Krishna Purvaja He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopipakanta Radhakanta Namostate Jayatam surato pango ramamanda matirgati mat sarvasva padam bhojo radhamadana mohano divyadvrindaranya kalpadru mada srimadranangara simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishtalivi Savimana Smarami Srimandra Sarasaram Vi Vamsiva Tatatastitaha Karsham Veno Sunai Gopir Gopinata Shri Sunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Once again the verse. Iti Utanapada Putro Dhruva Krishna Parayanaha Adbhut Trayanam Lokanam Chudamanir Ivamalaha. In this way, the fully Krishna-conscious Dhruva Maharaj, the exalted son of Maharaj Uttanapada, attained the summit of the three statuses of planetary systems. Hare Krishna. So, there's a very nice word, of course, here, and Srila Prabhupada is also explaining it, Krishna Parayanaha. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that this is the word for Krishna conscious. There is another word which is sometimes also used, is Krishna Bhavanamrita. This is also, like in India, in Hindi, ISKCON is Antarashtra Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangha. You know? So, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But another word is also Krishna Parayanaha. Krishna Parayana, and Srila Prabhupada has explained that Parayana, the word Parayana means going forward, or that this is our declared goal. If your declared goal is Krishna, then you are Krishna conscious. And Srila Prabhupada in a few places in his purports explains that because we are practicing Krishna Parayana, our declared goal is Krishna. Even we might not yet be fully qualified, we can still claim that we are bhakti yogis. You know? Because strictly speaking, a bhakti yogi is somebody who truly has bhakti and is a yogi. You know? So just being a yogi is difficult enough. You know? Just being a yogi to really control your senses, control your mind, be equiposed, you know, be established in Brahma Bhuta, you know, equal to all living entities. Like it was said in the previous verses also, you know, a person who are peaceful, equiposed, cleansed and purified, and who knows the art of pleasing all other living entities, keeps friendship only with devotees of the Lord, they alone can very easily achieve the perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. So the prerequisite is always sattva-guna, yoga, self-control. What to speak of bhakti, you know? So first we need to develop yogic qualities. Of course it's not, bhakti is ultimately independent, and somebody who might be a great yogi might not have an inch of bhakti. You know? And somebody who is not at all able to sit properly in Padmasana might be a great bhakta, you know? So the hierarchy for sure is clear that bhakti is more powerful, is more important. But you could say in an unusual scenario, it's a process. Usually you qualify yourself to some form of sattva guna before you can attain bhakti. You know? And there might be rare examples where bhakti is granted instantly. You know? There is this very famous story of Nila Madhava. So Nila Madhava is a very amazing deity. Unfortunately, we are not fortunate enough to see that deity. But it's the deity that existed before the deity of Jagannath, you know, in Puri, Nilachal. And this deity was worshipped by the Shabaras and by the demigods. You know? So the Devatas used to come and worship in the Nilachala hills, used to worship the deity of Nila Madhava, and it's supposed to have been a very, very amazing, beautiful deity. And also the Shabaras, means the forest dwellers, like tribal forest dwellers of Orissa, they were worshipping Nila Madhava, with fruits and flowers, and in front of that there was like a cave. In front of that cave was a kund, and I forgot the name of the kund. Somebody remembers? Anyway, it was a kund. It means a lake, like a small pond. And anybody who took bath in that pond immediately attained Chaturbhuja Swarupa moksha. Means they received a form equal to the Lord, Vishnu in Vaikuntha, 4 arms, same features. And when the Brahmana in the order of Indradumna Maharaj reached that kund, he saw how a crow, fell into that pond. A crow, just flying by, fell into the pond, and immediately Chaturbhuja Swarup, means 4-handed form, and then straight to Vaikuntha. And there are other examples, of some rats, running over the altar, hitting the oil lamp, burning, and then immediately liberation. But for most of us, even in spirit, Srila Prabhupada says we should always actually endeavor as if it's dependent on us. Endeavor as if it's dependent on us that we attain bhakti, moksha, liberation, attain Krishna. But at the same time, in spirit, we should always be hopeful for kripa, kripa siddhi. Because basically there's 2 options. There is sadhana siddhi and kripa siddhi. So siddhi means perfection, and one might attain perfection by kripa, by some mercy. Unfounded, without reason, somehow there might be some mercy. Even we might not be qualified, still we might receive mercy. And sadhana siddha is somebody that through his sadhana, discipline, determination, steadfastness, you attain perfection. So we should endeavor in our sadhana as if it is dependent on us, while being conscious that ultimately taking shelter, sharanagati, taking shelter of Krishna, and thereby hoping for kripa, is our actual only real hope. So seems a little bit tricky maybe, but basically it means that we should not be lax in our endeavors. Even we might not be actually able to overcome material nature by our own endeavors. If we master if we show our determination, our sincerity, we can expect to be helped. And of course, there's a very famous example of Garuda. Garuda and the small bird. There was a small bird who had his nest near the ocean, and a big wave came and took his nest, with his eggs. So the bird was very angry, and was trying to empty the ocean in order to get his eggs back. So the small bird was running back and forward, into the ocean, and taking some water out and throwing it onto the earth, And the bird was very determined. So the bird was so determined that the news spread. There is a bird, is trying to empty the ocean. Small bird trying to empty the ocean to get his eggs back. And Garuda heard of it, and he immediately became compassionate. And he came and he ordered, Varuna Dev, you return the eggs to the small bird. So Varuna Dev, the god of the ocean, personally brought the eggs back, to the small bird. So that's the idea, that we should endeavor as if it depends on us, but at the same time hope for kripa, hope for mercy. And Srila Prabhupada says that we can call ourselves bhakti yogis. Even, technically speaking, we might be, some Bhakta Jnana Mishra Bhakta, or Bhakti Karma Mishra Bhakta, or maybe even, Vikarma Mishra Bhakta, still sinful, but somehow still a devotee, So all kinds of mixtures might be there where we actually are. But Srila Prabhupada says, as long as the goal and the ideal remains clear, we can call ourselves bhakti yogis. And in this connection, it's very important to understand that there is a big difference between philosophical deviation and a sensual deviation. So just out of weakness, I don't know, you might, you're so hungry and you forget it's Ekadashi and you just eat, pasta and pizza, and popcorn and watch a movie, on Ekadashi, So, and then you realize your mistake, and then you are regretful. That is not so bad as somebody who's saying, well, Ekadashi, maybe in ancient times it was a good idea, Nowadays, it's not so important, Something like that. Or any other form of philosophical deviation. That's much worse than actually just making a mistake, or being weak. So that in that spirit, Srila Prabhupada is saying that as long as we keep the ideal intact, by study and by instructions of our gurus, teachers, we understand very clear what the ideal is. And then by some self-reflection, we will realize, I am not yet that ideal. So there's two tendencies. One tendency is to then pull down the ideal, so that I am more or less the ideal. Or you keep the ideal where it is, and then you honestly endeavor to reach it. Like that. So as long as we are honest, we can call ourselves bhakti yogis. That's the idea. Krishna parayanaha. And yes, and then this simple attitude can help us to reach the highest position. Here it is mentioned, Adbhut Trayanam Lokanam. So in the three worlds, among the three great worlds, beyond that, Chudamanir. So Manir means a jewel. Chudamani, the best jewel, the best jewel. How do we understand that Krishna is really the Chudamani, the most valuable jewel? Because sometimes for Western people maybe it's not so much, because Western people have, generally they are influenced by Christianity. So they say, yes, God, there's one God, and maybe his name is Yahweh or Jehovah, we're not sure, but there's one God, and then if you become Krishna conscious, you substitute, Yahweh or God, then Krishna takes that position, or maybe Allah, then Krishna is the supreme, and Allah and Yahweh are some other names that also can be used, So the idea is, just like the sun has different names in different cultures in different countries, naturally also God will have different names in different countries, in different places, same. Still there's only one sun, and to fight because you have a different name for the sun is not very smart, But for people who are coming from within the Vedic tradition, as in modern day, Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, sometimes a little bit more tricky, It's a little bit more tricky, Like, who says Krishna is supreme, And many people will say, what, Krishna? No. Krishna is just a playboy, He's not very trustworthy also, And he's a makanchor also, very naughty boy, First he's stealing butter, then he's stealing the ropes of the gopis. Very unmoral person. And this same doubt was there in Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is in our Guru Parampara. He's the father of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he grew up in a family of Bengali, I think Kayasthas, so very wealthy merchants. And they used to worship Durga, Durga Kali, like now is Durga Puja. It's very big, in West Bengal. Durga Puja, they make big pratimas of Durga with a lion, 10 arms, and it's a lot of dance and smoke and music and very nice, very loud. And but of course there's also the other side of Durga Puja that, depending which tradition, they follow a little bit different maybe, but still there is the tendency for Bali, So take a goat and then, you offer Bali to Mother Durga, So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he moved, I think, to Calcutta when he was 18, 19, and he kind of was exposed then to this very cosmopolitan city, with many Westerners, English. So he learned Sanskrit. He knew Sanskrit. He learned Persian, English. He even spoke some German. And he read also, Goethe and Western philosophers. And then he became a little bit alienated or disgusted also, with the practice of Bali. So he was not so convinced, and for some time he even was inclined towards Christianity, because Jesus Christ showed this incredible attitude. At the moment where he was being crucified, he was praying for the welfare of his, perpetrators. The famous saying, when Jesus Christ was being crucified, and they pierced lances into his abdomen, one side blood, one side water came. Then he said, "Oh Lord, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing." So this is amazing, if you can do that, if somebody's causing so much harm to you and you still are very compassionate, that means you are in a very different level, of consciousness. You're not on the bodily conscious body platform. So he was very impressed by this attitude of Jesus Christ. But generally he was very a great philosopher, a thinker. There in India they're called the Bhadralok. They were very intellectual, very smart. Indians who knew all the Western and also Indian culture. So they were trying to formulate, a new idea, of what India is, and also that's the beginning of the independence movement also in India. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur then found the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he liked it very much because it's very philosophical. A lot of tattva is explained there. But he was confused, like, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why are they proposing that Krishna is the supreme? That cannot be, Parabrahman, the supreme Lord, is Krishna? So he was confused. He couldn't really accept the idea that Krishna is the ultimate, goal. For obvious reasons, because if you misunderstand Krishna, or if you compare yourself with Krishna, if you think Krishna, if you observe Krishna without understanding the entire, you could say, like in other words, there is a recommendation. The Srimad Bhagavatam, we are studying now the 4th canto, has 12 skandhas, also 12 cantos, 12 volumes. And it is recommended one should start from the 1st and read, up to the 9th canto. And in the 10th canto, then Krishna is described directly. And Prabhupada emphasizes it very often. Don't read the 10th canto immediately. You will misunderstand it. And of course, Indian movies and Indian songs have done it again and again. Some song where they put Radha and sexy and dance and something. So the people think, oh yeah, this is, they don't really understand. They have no appreciation for who Krishna actually is. They think it's some mundane person or maybe just a myth, some mythology. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was extremely qualified, exposed to so many different cultures, languages, he knew Arabic, Persian, he had read, about Islam, Christianity, Western philosophies, Vedanta. When he read Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was convinced about everything, only not about Krishna. He liked the philosophy, everything made sense. Just that final point, he had a doubt. And then it is described that when the Akila Rasa Amrita Murti was explained, then he understood. So because Krishna is described as Akila Rasa Amrita Murti, that's how Rupa Goswami explains Krishna. And Akila Rasa Amrita Murti means that Krishna is Akila, first of all. So we have Akila Prabhu here. So who knows what the word Akila means? Any other? If you look in the Sanskrit dictionary, it has dozens of meanings, but it means universal, complete, ultimate, perfected, qualified, and so on and so forth. Akila. So Krishna is that, Akila. Rasa, we know the word rasa. What does rasa mean? Taste, experience, flavor, and amrita, nectar. And literally, what does it literally mean? Yes. So eternal, non-dying, amrita. So amrita means nectar. That's one meaning, that it's flavored, it's sweet, it's nectar, it's the best of the best, And at the same time it means beyond death, eternal, amrita. And then murti. So murti means, what does murti mean? Huh? Deity? Yes, very good. So murtaye is a snapshot, is like an expression, So a murti is like a stone snapshot or metal, or painting of the divine. So murti is not an idol. Idol is, I don't know the Sanskrit word for statue or idol, but murti means expression. So murtaye is expression, and murti is a snapshot of an expression, So maybe Krishna is, playing his flute, Maybe it's, Krishna giving blessings, Maybe it's Nrsingadev, with Prahlad, different expressions, different murtis. So Krishna is Akila Rasa Amrita Murti. He's that personification, he has the ability to reciprocate with any rasa, So there are 5 primary rasas and then 12 secondary rasas. But we can just focus on the 5 primary. So the first one is, of course, Shantarasa, where we have an appreciation of the Lord, beginning in appreciating nature, appreciating His creation, and ultimately, recently I read about, I forgot the exact quote, unfortunately, because usually we think of Shantarasa as, we read it maybe like 3 weeks ago in the Nectar of Devotion. Usually we think of Shantarasa as impersonal. And sometimes one part of it is like that, like you appreciate nature and, very nice sunsets, and you're some kind of pantheist, nature is divine, so we should protect nature. But in the Nectar of Devotion, it was been explained how Shantarasa was explained in different facets, and actually is appreciating Krishna himself also. We might not have a direct relationship with him yet, but we like Krishna, He's nice, he's a nice flute player, There were a few examples, I forgot unfortunately the details. But appreciating Krishna as a person himself is also Shantarasa. Then one step further is Dasya. So Dasya is when you actually enter a relationship you enter a relationship with Krishna and you start serving the Lord. You're not just neutrally appreciating, but you are subordinate to the Lord now. So this is a very crucial part, dasya. Dasya means that you understand that there's the Lord, the Master, and we are subordinates. So there's a clear hierarchy of God being supreme, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-pervading, etc. Whereas we are, of course, very small. We are limited. We are forgetful. So we understand this position very clearly. So we take shelter. We take shelter. We serve, and we appreciate the greatness of the Lord. And most religions will be within those two realms. So most religions will be either pantheistic, appreciating nature, being in harmony with nature, or we understand that God is the Lord, you are the servant, and a servant might be a little bit, fearful of the master, If there's no real, you could say, respect, in a positive way, a positive way of fear towards a master is respect. You have respect, Because you have respect, you behave in a certain way. You follow, the instructions, etc. So most religions will be in that realm, and they will also profess that, And Christianity is very strong, You fear your Lord, and follow His commandments, You sinner, Otherwise you'll go to hell forever, And so, but then the rasa description in the Vedas and also Chaitanya Charitamrita goes further, that there is also Sakya rasa. So there is friendship. Friendship is of course more intimate than a servant to a master. So if you're the servant, you might have a small house, and the master has a big castle, and you might walk in the castle, but you cannot go to his bed and sleep in the bed, You will be kicked out, You will get in trouble, So, but a friend, yes, a friend. There is a saying: you have a real friend if he feels completely at ease at your home. So he comes to your home and he doesn't ask for permission, He comes to your home and opens the fridge and takes something out and sits in the couch, and hello, I'm here. So that means he's a real friend. He's not afraid of you. He feels he has nothing to hide. Also, he doesn't feel like awkward. So Arjuna is a friend of Krishna, for example, and Arjuna used to sleep in the same bed with Krishna. They used to, there's a famous story of Narada Muni visiting Dwarka, and he saw Krishna and Arjuna sitting in the same, taking a nap, in the same bed. And all the pores, it says, every single pore of Krishna's body was chanting Arjuna, and all the pores of Arjuna's body was chanting Krishna. So they're good friends, Nara Narayana Rishi. Every birth, they're again and again together. So more intimate and apparently less respect, because friends might tease each other, A friend might, like one of the games we had when we were kids, we were sitting next to each other, and I forgot exactly the rules, but we would, if you move or something or you smile, you would smack in the leg, So and it was fun, Even we were hitting each other the whole time, So that's friendship, Like the cowherd boys also, they say, Krishna, close your eyes, we'll give you a ladu, And Krishna trusts them, and they put a flower inside, And then Krishna is eating a flower. So friendship is like that. It's more intimate, and it seems disrespectful, but it doesn't work if there's not a foundation there, you know. If your friend comes to your house and opens the fridge, you know, and is very comfortable, you don't mind, you know. But if somebody you don't know, you know, because we have so many guests here, sometimes the guests think they can go everywhere. So sometimes some Indians, you know, enter your apartment, you know. I'm like, hello, Haribol. Namaste. Is this the reception for guest house? You know. So then you're like, no, it's over there, you know. Get out. So yes, there needs to be a foundation for friendship to work. Means there is respect, there has been some servitude, you know, you serve each other, you help each other, then a friendship develops, and then there is mutual appreciation, and the relationship goes deeper. Sri Sri Vala Lakshmi Singari Bhagavan Ki Jai. Yes, so and then beyond servitude, we have, of course, parenthood. You know? Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras. So Vatsalyaras is parent relationship, and that's even more intimate, you know, because you find your friends, you know, and some friendships are, you know, more casual, you know, maybe short term. You go to the same school, so you're friends, but then you change school and then you have a different set of friends, you know. But your parents, you cannot change so easily, you know. Your parents are your parents, you know, and it's a relationship for life, you know. And of course, the parents have seen you, you know, when you were very small, you know, and helpless, you know, and supported you. And usually there's a, you could say, generational debt that then the children would take care of the parents once they're old, you know. That is usually the natural generational contract, you could say. And yeah, it's very intimate, you know, and it's but it's very different than Sakyarasa, because Sakyarasa is on equal level. Now in parenthood there is again a hierarchy, you know. The parents are the givers of service, and the children are the receivers in the beginning, you know. And maybe towards the end of life it will change, you know. At one point it should change, you know. At one point you should realize, you know, maybe I should, you know, show some gratitude and not be rebellious, you know, to my parents. So, and then you know, might reward, like reciprocate, you know, the attention, service, and everything the parents gave you when you were small. And it is described in connection to Krishna that the ideal situation actually is there that before, as friends, you're equal, but in Vatsalya Rasa, Krishna is willing to become subordinate to you. You know? So Krishna is the child, you know. In Dasya Rasa, you are subordinate and Krishna is the master. You know? In Vatsalya Rasa, we are equal. In Sakya Rasa, we are equal. You know? In friendship, we are equal. In Vatsalya Rasa, you are the master, you are the parent. You know? And Krishna is willing to become dependent of you. You know? So that's very deep, you know. And that's Krishna in Krishna Lila, when he's stealing butter, you know, naughty boy, you know. And the Mother Yashoda has to go through quite a few, you know, complaints, you know, and many very amazing stories. I think Madhavananda Prabhu told this story when for Janmastami. I think it's Upananda, it's the uncle of Krishna, and I forgot the name of his wife. She catches Krishna, you know, stealing butter, you know, at her house, you know. So Krishna, even he has enough butter at Yashoda's place, but you know, when you steal something, it has a special flavor, you know. You know, it's more excitement, you know. When your mother gives you to eat, it's, you know, it's also nice, but it's more exciting if you can steal it. You know? So Krishna goes to the neighbors, you know, and steals butter, and she's stealing butter from his uncle, and then his aunt catches him, you know, red-handed, you know, with the hand in the butter pot, you know. So she immediately takes him and says, now I'll bring you to Mother Yashoda. I have proof, your hand is full of butter. I'll bring you to Mother Yashoda, and finally everybody will know. But she had some pity with Krishna, so she covered Krishna with her sari, so not everybody would see that he had caught him, and he's carrying him over the streets, to Yashoda's house. And then she says, Yashoda, look, your son, I caught him red-handed. And Mother Yashoda is very confused. What do you mean? Where is he? And it's like, and she's like, here. And then she looks, and her husband is standing there. So Krishna took the form of her husband, And she was very embarrassed, So she went back, and then Krishna again became Krishna and said, so don't do that to me. And there's so many pastimes like that, where Krishna is very naughty. Sometimes he's a complete child, and he's very afraid, actually, Because Krishna is fully engrossed in that position of being a child. It's not that he's thinking, I am God, I can do whatever I want. In that situation, he did. In that situation, he manifested his form because it was convenient for the lila. But in other pastimes, Krishna is running away from his mother because she caught him also, feeding butter to the monkeys. So Mother Yashoda is chasing Krishna, and he's running and hiding. And while he's hiding, he continues crying. So the acharyas explain that that is a sign that Krishna is absolutely absorbed in the rasa of being a child. It's not that he's thinking, I am God, I'm just playing to be a child. No, he is a child, and he's really afraid of his mother. He's absolutely afraid of his mother, terrified. And he's hiding and crying by himself, And then Mother Yashoda catches him, In another situation, Mother Yashoda is looking into his mouth if he ate earth, Because Balaram saying, he's eating earth. And Krishna, no, I didn't eat earth. And he's like, okay, open your mouth, I want to see. Like children want to eat everything. Annamaya, there's this phase, where Annamaya is very predominant. There's learning everything, but Annamaya is the most important. So Annamaya means, I eat, therefore I am. So whatever you give a child, they look at it, and then have to taste it, And if you don't pay attention, they might eat anything, whatever is lying around, they will eat it. Try to eat it. And so Mother Yashoda looks into the mouth of Krishna, and the entire universe is manifested in front of her. She sees all the universes, and then it's like a zoom in, into the Pur Mandala, Mathura, Vrindavan, her house, and then she's looking into Krishna's mouth. That's what she's seeing in Krishna's mouth. And she becomes dizzy, is very confused. And then Mother Yashoda, for one moment she realizes, this is not an ordinary child, But then Yoga Maya transforms the situation, because otherwise now Mother Yashoda will be afraid of her child, And that's not good for Vatsalya Rasa. So then Yoga Maya is the illusion of the spiritual world, which is Yoga Maya, which enables us to become more intimate with Krishna instead of more separated from Krishna. So then Mother Yashoda thinks, oh, some evil spirit has attacked my child. I should do some ritual to purify him. Shubha Drishti, Indian mothers do it all the time in many places. We were in Tamil Nadu visiting this family, and we were staying there a few weeks, so the neighbors were starting asking questions, who are these, Western foreigners, Hare Krishnas, So she became afraid they're putting some evil eye on us. So we had to sit down, and she took a lemon and some oil with some kurkum and camphor, and she did Shubha Drishti, and was chanting something in Tamil. And it was very, very nice afterwards. We felt very protected. So Mother Yashoda also went into that mode, Okay, I need to protect my child. It's weird. Some ghost is doing something to my child, So she took cow dung and smeared Krishna from head to toes in cow dung. That was her Shubha-drishti. So, like that, that's Vatsalya Rasa. And then there is Madhurya Rasa. Madhurya Rasa is when you have a conjugal relationship with somebody. And that must exist in God as well. Otherwise, he would not be complete. So that's there. Madhurya Rasa is there. Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, Sitaram. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur read this explanation of the rasas, he understood, okay, Krishna is supreme. There is no other manifestation of God that fulfills all the rasas completely. No other divinity, within the, you could say, Vedic pantheon, of devatas and gods and goddesses. Krishna is the only one who fulfills all these rasas perfectly. The other incarnations, they will partially fulfill some part of it. Some religions will focus mainly on impersonal aspects of energy. Other forms of the Lord are more in Aishvarya mood. Very clearly, most devatas have a position of, Sakya rasa, Dasya rasa towards the Lord. They're performing some, they have some responsibility to carry out, in the universal management. So understanding those 5 rasas, for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all the doubts were misspelled. On the contrary, nobody else than Krishna can be supreme. Because Krishna, especially in this apparently from a material point of view, controversial aspects, that he's dancing in the middle of the night with the gopis, materially speaking, that might be immoral, But if we understand that he is transcendent, then we have to understand very clearly that this adiras, what Krishna is experiencing in the spiritual world, is actually the origin of all material lust and love. So within the material world, lust is very binding, and it's selfish by nature. You want to please your senses, and it's a very strong urge and drive, that you have. And you might do it with somebody, and you could say in conscience, but it's primarily still a selfish activity, and it will reinforce your identification with the material body. It's called Hridaya Grantha in Sanskrit. The knot in the heart, with the material world will become tighter and tighter. Whereas prema, or love, pure love, is selfless. So we have to understand that Krishna is performing this rasa lila on a platform of complete transcendence. So it's, probably very difficult for us to understand, for me as well, for sure. To really in theory, we can have some idea, but to really understand Krishna's rasa lila is very difficult, because there is interesting, is a paradox. It says that you can only overcome material lust by understanding the rasa lila. At the same time, if you are feeling lusty, materially lustful, while hearing the rasa lila, you should not read it. So how do we do it? So it seems like impossible, but there is a way. And again, this is what I said in the very beginning. We can always hope for kripa, for mercy, that we might get, mercy to enter that realm. But we endeavor in our sadhanas, in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and in time it will be revealed. It will be understood, no doubt. So yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was only able to fully appreciate Krishna when he understood this. Akhila Rasa Amrita Murti. So Krishna is that person who is able to reciprocate any form of rasa. Any relationship you want to have with Krishna, he will be able to reciprocate it. And important is also the word Amrita. So Amrita means it will be fully satisfactory, but not only for some time, forever. It's a big thing. Because in relationships, sometimes there might be very intense relationships in this world, where you have a very strong relationship with somebody for 5 years, 10 years, maybe your whole life, But, many married couples say you have to overcome the 7 years. After 7 years, if you manage 7 years, then probably you will stay for much longer. But within 7 years, if you don't have this rasa anymore, it might be difficult, So, Krishna is that person that will not disappoint us, Because in material relationships, we will experience disappointment all the time, You have a very good friend, and somehow he just forgot about you, He's not writing anymore, He didn't congratulate you for your birthday, Or maybe you're married, and you're making all the hints, but your partner's not realizing it's your anniversary, And you forgot, Or even worse, cheating, You realize you have been cheated, Very painful, but very real, again and again. So Krishna is that person who has the capacity also, that's Akila, He has the capacity, the power, the ability to, completely, eternally, universally, fully qualified to reciprocate with all of us simultaneously, So, because somebody might be a very nice person, but he can only have a good relationship with his children, and with his wife, He might be a king, he might have then maybe it's extending his ability to more people are benefiting, but still it's, we are limited, in how much we can actually reciprocate. Krishna is not limited. He can reciprocate with unending living entities fully. So, therefore Krishna is Chudamanir, so he's the highest jewel, the summit, that is to be attained. Okay, I'll stop here. Maybe there are some questions, comments. Yes. Hold das Mikro vielleicht.
Hare Krishna. I don't really understand how the Vatsalya rasa is coming from the spiritual world, because by this getting children makes more sense here in biological ways. No, why is there in spiritual world something like parenthood when you just change body by desire? I don't understand.
Yeah. So Vatsalya means parenthood. So it means a relationship between children and parents and children. So that's Vatsalya. He's asking, how is it that in the spiritual world there is parents and children if everybody's eternal? It's like, what's going on? It's so for us to understand the eternal reality is very difficult, because we live in a place where everything has a beginning and an end. It's also very important to understand that the Bhauma Lila means the pastimes of Krishna in the material world are equally eternal as much as the pastimes in the spiritual world. So when Krishna appears in the Bhauma Lila, in this material realm, it's described just like the sun. So when the sun rises, it appears now here. It's rising right now in Jandalsbrunn, but it's setting, down somewhere, further east. It doesn't mean that the sun is dead or that the sun, is being born again. So in a similar way, when Krishna's pastimes become unmanifest in this world, they begin somewhere else, in a different universe, in a different place. So, and there is a description by the Acharyas that the Bhauma Lila of Krishna being a small baby, crawling, stealing butter, is in that way sweeter than the experience of Krishna in the spiritual world. Because within this realm, he manifests this entire process from him being a young child all the way to Kaishora, as basically being a baby, a toddler, a child, and then until he's a teenager. Whereas in the spiritual world, Krishna is always Kaishora. You know? So in the spiritual world, people have an eternal age. So this is described. Krishna is Kaishora, so he's a teenager, more or less 15, 16 years old. You know? That's his eternal age. And he has eternal parents. You know? Like that. Mother Yashoda and Vasudev are the eternal parents of Krishna. The position is already taken. But you can still serve Krishna as a father and mother in another, you could say, parallel position. So you can basically become an assistant of Mother Yashoda to serve Krishna in that capacity as well. Reicht es?
It seems to me that parenthood got invented in material world.
No, but that's your idea. No, because you could also say, why do we have a nose? Why do we have a bottom? You know? Why do we have a belly? You know? Why do we have ears? Understand? Because we think that there's devolution and evolution. We think that that's the idea. We think that we make an image of God which resembles us. You know. So Krishna has 2 ears, two nose holes, 2 eyes, a mouth. You know, a belly, arms. Because we have that. You know. So within this world we have that. And we think that the reason we have this shape is because it's fulfilling its, you know, like biological functions, like you mentioned, you know. But the reason we have this form is because we are expansions of Krishna. You understand? So Krishna's form, or his eyes, are not there to breathe like we breathe. He's not dependent on his nose to breathe. He has a nose because it's perfect for him to have a nose, as he has a nose. And we have a nose that very vaguely resembles his nose. You understand the logic? So basically the biological, I can make it in a simple sentence. The biological setup of our body is only within this world as we experience it. It should not lead us to conclude that the spiritual world requires biological, or has to fulfill the same biological functions that we have here. You understand? So, or in the Brahma Samhita is described, Angani, wie geht es? Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti. So, Krishna can fulfill with any of his angas, any of his limbs, body parts, senses, eyes, you know, any of the functions of the other. So Krishna can just look at something and eat it up. You know? So within this world, we think a nose is for smelling, you know, a genital is for making children, and then you have children, you know, in a womb of a mother, you know. But already Brahma manifests children from his mind. You know? And in the spiritual world, the parents exist forever. So we have always the tendency from our conditioned state, we're trying to judge transcendence. You know? It's like Dr. Frog trying to understand the ocean. You know, he's sitting in a small well, you know, and then his friend comes, I saw the Atlantic Ocean. And Dr. Frog is, oh, really? So how big is it in comparison to my well? You know? It's so big you cannot imagine. You go on a boat and it takes days and days to cross it. Yes, but I mean like 2 times bigger as my well? Like, no, it's much bigger. Like how much? 3 times bigger? You know? So he's trying to understand the Atlantic Ocean based on his well. You know? And we think that the biological functions we have in this world have any reference or any conditioning on spiritual reality. It doesn't. The reason we have biological functions here is because that's how the indriyas, you know, communicate with the what do you call it? The panchatattva, the 5 elements, you know. So it's a mechanical function. It's Sankhya Yoga. In Sankhya Yoga, you can understand how all of this has been manifested here. And through Sankhya Yoga, you can undo it, and then you can manifest a spiritual form, which is not dependent on those, biological functions, elemental functions. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
I also got a question concerning the bodily functions, and as you said, or I might be butchering it, that we are by nature lustful beings, at least the material part of us, and you said that enjoying the bodily pleasures is also something selfish. Is it necessarily that way, or can it also be, or can this also be transcended in a devoted relationship if you are both going for one goal?
Yes.
And you can take the interaction of bodies beyond reprocreation.
But actually, the biological function is reprocreation, and that's the purpose, of course. Obviously, no question. That's the purpose of sexuality. But at the same time, the Bhagavatam describes in the second canto the Vishvarupa, the universal form, and then all the different parts of the body are described. The elements attached to it, how they function, and how this universal form is like a prototype for how we are functioning as embodied beings. And then it says that the genitals are imbued with rasa, so there is a very strong flavor and attachment attached to that, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't do it probably, once I think Pracharananda Prabhu was saying, it's like when you might see how do you call them, Schnecken, snails, snails in the garden. You can go in the garden and you will see, mama snail, papa snail, like curled into like a small bundle and have the small snail babies in the middle, and so it doesn't look super attractive, for a human. You might be even like, and they're destroying your plants at the same time, while they're procreating, So, but for them there is rasa, there, So it's very similar. When we have, when we experience, sexual rasa in this world, when the devatas, the living entities in a higher plane, when they look at us, they're like, oh my God, look at that, It's maybe even worse, for them than for us looking at snails. There is a description like that also in detail, but I won't tell it now again. And so there is rasa attached to it, because otherwise there would be no impetus to procreate. So the rasa is there to give impetus to procreate. But then, of course, we have the tendency to, indulge in that rasa, alienated from the actual ultimate purpose of procreation. But the point still remains that the reason why we have this desire is because it exists in the divine. There is Adi Rasa. The Adi Rasa is in Krishna in relationship to Radharani, and it is pure. Whereas in the material world, the act of sexuality will always reinforce your identification with the body. By nature, because it's such a strong sensual experience, it reinforces that this body is a source of pleasure. So the hankara, or the false ego, is reinforced in its attachment, in its identification with the external body. So the idea of self-realization is that you want to understand that this body is temporary, and the true source of pleasure is within. So having said that, sexuality can be used, purified in Dharma. And Krishna even says, I am kamosmi, so I am that sexuality or lust, desire that is in Dharma. And that means usually you do that to have children. Then it's fully Dharma, then it's fully pure. In a very conscious, samskara, you decide, I want to have children. Besides that, it always will be, reinforcing your material identification with the body. It's by nature. You can't be detached of enjoying sexuality and then do it at the same time. Probably won't work. You're not present. Yes. No, it's good because we have the online viewers. They will complain in the comments that they're not hearing the question. Then I have to repeat the question.
Yeah, so we are talking about the body pleasures, and we are also, we have nose, and we go in a beautiful garden and we see flowers, and we fell in love with the flowers, and we want to smell them, right?
Yes.
It's similar, let's say we are sleeping in the morning and it's like 4 a.m. and it's very cold. We feel that, okay, we sleep a little bit more. But this is more about the body pleasure, right? Because you feel a little comfortable inside the blanket.
Yeah.
And because of this, we start to procrastinate. It's
Yes.
because we try and avoid maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. So how would we avoid this, and what's the level that we have to stop ourselves from bodily pleasure? Because, yeah, we do have that feeling to really continue sleeping, but at some stage, we really have to stop that. So what's the distinction between the pleasure and really doing it a lot?
So
And how do you stop that also?
I'll start a little bit different. It says that there's Purusha and Prakriti. You know there's two aspects. Purusha is the enjoyer and Prakriti is what is being enjoyed. And that will always exist there. So somebody is the Purusha, somebody is the Prakriti. So and it's not necessarily male and female. Generally, Purusha is considered to be male and Prakriti is female. But it can change, because it's the principle. Who is the enjoyer, who's the controller, and who's being enjoyed. And there is a very interesting analysis in this connection that Prabhupada makes, is that actually if the Prakriti willingly, is willing to be enjoyed, Prakriti enjoys maybe even more than Purusha. So that we know in relationships, because that's how our relationship works ultimately, and therefore the idea is that we understand we are Prakriti, we are to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord, He's the ultimate Purusha, obviously, So when we have this attitude change, we will enjoy, we enjoy a lot. We receive only the remnants, of prasad giving to the Lord, which is amazing, And when you do kirtana and you enjoy kirtan, you glorifying the Lord, but you're enjoying, equally or maybe even more, if you're pure. But for the practical part, I would say it's in the Bhagavad Gita it says, one should have a balance of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation. We should have a balance. And, the practical part means you need to balance it out. If you sleep too much, obviously you will, miss out on your duties. You will become, lethargic, lazy, In the worst case, you become suicidal, If you work too much and don't rest, you will become, workaholic, stressed, sick also ultimately. And if you meditate only, then also, if you're not qualified, some people might be able to only meditate, but if you're not qualified, at one point you will, have a very strong urge to go back to other activities. Or very often, it's just a guise, Sometimes people in a guise of meditation are actually just, Prabhupada says, they're sleeping, They're pretending to meditate, but actually they're like in deep slumber, So there's a fine line between being actually able to really meditate for long times, and just tamaguna. So yes, the balance between those is very important. Also, Prabhupada describes that we, Jnana, karma, and bhakti. These are the three main forms of yoga. And these three are a natural sequence that build on each other, but also these are three principles that we should apply in our lives. We should have karma, activity, we should work, jnana, we should study, and we should have bhakti. If we neglect one over the other, then it can be problematic. If you're too philosophical, you become too rational, not enough ability to have faith. If you work too much, and you don't understand why you're working, you might be confused why you're even doing it. And if you focus only on bhakti prematurely, without doing practical work, without having proper understanding, it might become just sentimental, some sentimental idea, not founded in philosophy, no practical application also. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.